All right, welcome to First in Pod. This is kind of a depressing open to the show. It's the first Thursday, the first week without football since August. So we are all making do, all coping. And I think Pat probably did the smartest thing. He said, the hell with it, I'm going to Hawaii. And they used to play the Pro Bowl there. You know, you're a guy that's played in so many Pro Bowls, you probably just figured they were still out there playing the game. Otherwise, they're not. They're not even really playing games anymore. Well, they're playing games. They're not playing a football game anymore.
Yeah, which sucks, but
Which does
that's
well.
not
We need. I do want to talk to you about that. This is football, regular football talk for people. We break down every game every week. When there's not a game, we get it. Well, we'll do the Pro Bowl stuff. That'll be the game, I guess, we talk about here eventually. And there is, of course, the big game, the Super Bowl next week. Pat will be in New Orleans, his old stomping grounds, kind of, sort of. He's a Baton Rouge LSU guy. And so we'll get into a little bit of the Super Bowl matchup, but more specifically, really, to start this podcast episode, we will get into some of the aftermath of the championship games and the fallout from both games. If you like the podcast, you should subscribe because that allows for the podcast to get dropped right into your feed. And then if you rate it and review it, that also helps grow it because it gets it on lists and gets people recognizing that we're doing this thing twice a week, Thursdays and Sunday nights. Yeah. All right, Pat. So let's start with something that came out of Buffalo just today. Their GM, Brandon Beane, did a end of season press conference, and he played the bad officiating card. He brought up the Josh Allen fourth down that was ruled short after review, and he brought up the Xavier Worthy catch where he went up for the ball with Bishop. They both looked like they had joint possession of it. It also looked like the ball was on the ground, and they gave it to Kansas City, and then the Chiefs went in and scored. And he said, for those who haven't seen it, that they've been in contact with the league. The league sent them video. The league tried to explain it, but he still believes that the refs and the replay system blew it on both plays and that his team got partially jobbed in the AFC Championship game. Spence put the quote up on our YouTube page. If you're talking about the fourth down play, I feel like he got that, and I still feel like he got that. Is this sour grapes, Pat, or are the Bills still do they have a right to still be angry days later?
sour grapes. I mean, just for me, watching the game, you had opportunities to win that game. Yeah, it came down to the officials having to make a call as far as the fourth and short, or the PI call late in the game. Regardless what it was, but you had your opportunities to put this game away, and you didn't. And we all know that it was going to be a dogfight game. It was going to come down to the wire, and we knew that Josh Allen had to be this much better than Patrick Mahomes going into this game because this was a neck and neck match. This was a dead even match up until the last drive. Kansas City pretty much kicking a field goal to solidify themselves to win that ball game, going up by 3, right? So this was a game that came down to that you wanted to take it out of the officials' hands, and for the most part, you did that, and you just had you. At the end of the day, we saw these calls. Yes, it was an incomplete catch by Dalton Kincaid. Yes, they were short on the fourth down attempt. It's just like things like that. You just put it in the refs and the referees' hands to pretty much dictate how that play was the outcome of that play. So, in going back, like I said, you had opportunities to put this game away, and that you didn't. And we all know how hard it is to put a Kansas City team away. Therefore, they're never really put away. But you had opportunities in this game to solidify drives, to keep the momentum, and things like that, and that they weren't able to do. So I feel like this is total sour grapes. Yes, those two calls were close, but at the end of the day, when America is watching like that and they have to go up under the boot up under the hood and actually dictate a play, they're not going to get that wrong.
If I'm Roger Goodell, whatever the maximum fine is, I'm handing that out for these comments, and
Yes.
just because it continues to perpetuate the myth in the league's mind that they're helping the Chiefs. They're trying to do whatever they can to get the Chiefs back into the Super Bowl and help them win another Super Bowl. And when a big decision maker and a guy with a lot of power who represents a team that just got beat in the playoffs makes a comment like this and doesn't take the high road, it's going to give fodder for people who really believe that the league has a bias.
And man, it just takes you back to the New England days. Like, obviously, there was some things that came out, that they was penalized by the the Spygate. And no, actually, I don't think they was penalized by the Spygate. I know they.
Oh yes, they were. Oh yeah, they were
Penalized
big
by
time.
the Deflategate for sure.
Both of
Yes,
them. The
but for
Spygate
the
and
most
Deflategate
part,
they got hit for. Brady got suspended.
yeah. So that exactly. So you go back to when they created a whole rule for the tough rule. Like America thought that the referees was on New England side.
Correct.
They were just a team that understood how to be successful in moments. That was the only difference between them and the other team. Like Philadelphia Eagles, this is a perfect matchup because 9 times out of 10, like it was going to be, I thought, me and you thought it was going to be Philadelphia and Detroit playing for the NFC Championship. That didn't end up panning out, and we thought that it can go either way. But Philadelphia is right where everybody predicted them to be, right? The Chiefs is pretty much where everybody predicted them to be. Everybody else in their rim was a big question mark. Anybody else behind the Chiefs was a big question mark. Anybody else behind the Philadelphia Eagles was a question mark. So this is going to be a perfect match. But now it's going to come down to is who is going to make the perfect play in the situation that most teams are not successful in. And that's what it's going to come down to is what team is better coached and better prepared for that moment when it occurs.
So the thing that hurts the Chiefs is that the stats from the last few years show that they get a lot more calls at home than they do in the specifically at Arrowhead in the playoffs. The amount of penalties called on the opponent versus them is way out of whack. It's like 40 something more penalties have been called on opponents. And before we went into this game, it was like it was a comparison of roughing the passer calls on the teams they were playing versus ones called on them, and way more for the opponent. I think in the 17 playoff games, or excuse me, I think it was like in the 11 or 12 playoff games at Arrowhead, in every single game, the other team had more penalties called, and in one game it was even. So America sees these things and thinks, okay, this is proof that the NFL wants the Chiefs to win. And you're shaking your head, I know. But when you're watching these games, it feels that way as a fan, man.
It does feel that way. But at the end of the day, it just goes to show you how much better prepared that the Chiefs are, how much they understand certain situations. That it can come down to freaking guys being the first to run out of bounds, like when Houston was when they played the Kansas City Chiefs. It's things like that mount up and be like, oh, that was a call that they get. No, that's a bonehead mistake.
Right. So I do agree with that. I mean, the play where the fourth down play, they got confused by what Kansas City showed at the line of scrimmage. Allen sent the protection to the wrong side. They didn't have people to pick up the blitz. I mean, he still made an amazing play. Dude drops a ball. I mean, it wasn't an easy catch, but it's still a catchable ball. That's to your point about the margin of error. The Chiefs tend to make those plays. The teams they're playing usually don't. Mahomes is perfect when he's trailing in games and closer into the playoffs. But I do think the calls that Bean is talking about here, Pat, the sequence of events on how that tush-push play with Allen, the way that it got officiated, I still don't agree with. Okay, so the official that sees the ball, okay, so the ball is on the right side if you're watching at home. That official on the far side of the field sees the ball relative to the line to gain. He marks a first down. The official on the opposite side of the field, who Allen has his back turned to, so the ball is not facing him, he marks it short, and they go with that official's call. I don't understand that. Like, no one has explained that properly. They never measure afterwards. How do you not measure that, Pat?
Yeah, I don't know how you don't measure that, but which hash mark that ball, I can't remember which hash mark that ball ended up being on, and which official that they ended up taking. Was it on the left hash or the right hash, and which official mark did they take? I know they took the one that was a little bit further that didn't have a clear view of it.
That's what the near side. So the ball was on the was on the right hash. The official that is on the left hash side of the field is the one whose call they went with, and he didn't have a view of the ball. He couldn't see the ball from where he was. The other guy had the view of it. That's what I don't get.
Yeah, that is questionable for sure, because they, for the most part, they take the official side that is closest to the action.
He was closer to the ball, and he saw the ball. It was a double whammy, dude.
Yeah, now I agree with that one. Now that is just that's just questionable.
And so we've said this on the podcast about the Chiefs all year because they're undefeated in one-score games. If you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. You give them any opening, they'll take it. So the refs, in my opinion, get that call wrong. Or it felt wrong only because they didn't, in my opinion, properly go about officiating the play. If the guy with the view of the ball says it's short, it's harder for me to argue it. But they didn't do it that way. Okay, so you do that, and then Kansas City goes downfield, they kick a field goal, and Allen's got the ball in his hands late in the game, just like he did in the playoff game against the Chiefs the year before, and he can't make enough plays to win it. And, we're looking at Mahomes as the greatest playoff quarterback other than Brady, and Allen's being looked at as a bridesmaid again, which is fine. And then the play that we're talking about before the half that Bean's talking about, where you have a wide receiver and a safety basically come down with the ball simultaneously. And then, Pat, on replay that you see part of the ball is on the turf with nobody's hand underneath it. To me, that's incomplete. If no one's established possession of the ball, I wouldn't have given Buffalo an interception. And I wouldn't have given Worthy the catch. To me, it's just a no. In that situation, if they rule incomplete, does either side have a bitch? I don't think either side has a complaint at that point because they didn't make the call they didn't give the Chiefs an advantage and they didn't give the Bills an advantage. They just called it incomplete. I think that's what they should have done on that play. I mean, you've been in situations like that where it's like a 50-50 situation. And if the ball's on the turf too, how do you say anybody clearly caught it?
Because, I mean, at the end of the day, now they have changed the rules so much to where the ball can touch the turf, but then if you have full control of it, that's okay. And we all know where, if both guys, offense and the defender, is going down to the ground, we know who they're going to give the advantage to. So in my, and
you're not saying the Chiefs, you're saying the offense in this situation. You're not saying they're
Right. So diagnosing that play is now, since the Dez Bryant catch, we've seen the ball actually hit the turf before. And, the ref come back and be like, the catcher had, full control of the ball, touched the ground, still in a complete catch. Right. So now in this case, with both guys are going to the ground, we know both guys clearly have possession of the ball firm possession of the ball, right? And now they're saying you already know the advantage is going to go to the offense. So regardless if the ball touched the ground, if the ball touched the ground, if it did or not, they still have firm possession of the football. So therefore, we're going to give that to the offense. And like I said, it just be crazy moments like this all the time that pop up for the Chiefs that a lot of people and a lot of fans don't really know about and understand, to where it just like mind-boggling to them. So for me, like I said, diagnosing this play, looking at this play, I'm like, of course they're going to give it to the Chiefs, because ever since the Dez Bryant catching Phil in Green Bay, the ground can't cause this. So if the catcher has firm control and the ball still touch the ground, it's still a complete it's a complete catch. So same thing in this scenario. We all know if both guys come down with the ball, regardless if the ball touched the ground or not, who they're going to give the possession to, Pony.
Yeah, I know, but you're probably thinking if you're Bishop on that play, there's no way this guy caught the ball. I mean, that's
No, I'm with you 100%. Like, it's no way, but at the end of the day, we know where that rule is going to lean towards to.
Yeah.
Like, we just hate that the Chiefs was in that moment, and this is the biggest
Right.
game of the year, but we know where that rule is going to lean towards to. I mean, it sucks that they always find themselves in a situation to where it's always favorable for them, but it is.
All right, so that's the update on the officiating from the game. There's still people involved that obviously have very hurt feelings, and the Bills are not saying, hey, fans, calm down. It was a fair game. They're only adding fuel to the fire. So that's the aftermath from the AFC Championship game. I think the aftermath from the NFC Championship game, and I missed this comment. So when I did the podcast after the championship games without you, I did not even address this comment. But I think it's actually a big one. Jalen Hurts has his best game of the year, I would say, at the perfect time against Washington. They threw the ball more. He had probably his best passing game in weeks. And even though Barkley was great again, he didn't have a ton of touches, and Hurts made a lot of plays in that game. And Hurts comes out after the game and says, they finally let me out of the straitjacket. And that's a pretty revealing comment, Pat. If he was totally fine with, let me just run the offense and make sure we're this, amazing run-based offense, and I've got tons of rushing touchdowns, short yardage, you name it. I can break the big play with an RPO. Barkley's incredible. If he was totally cool with that, I don't think he says something like this. I think it's a little shot at his coach, man. Like, you know what I can do. You saw me in the Super Bowl 2 years ago light up Kansas City. The only reason why we lost is because they had the ball last. I played my ass off in that game, and you guys paid me because of it.
He did. But point is, going back to what I said, and I feel like they implemented it a lot in this game, to the RPOs, the naked boots, rolling out, getting him into a groove. Like, Jalen is a rhythm quarterback. Like, he's not a guy that's gonna like just dice you up around the yard. Not saying that he can't do that, right? But he's not got a guy. He's proven that he's not going to be the guy that's just going to just drop back and throw the ball, 35, 42 times a game and put up 300, 400 yards passing. That's just something that I feel like his game is not made for. Now, like I'm saying, again, not saying that he can't do that, but for the most part, I feel like his game is not made for that. So what Kellen Moore did was getting him on some. They had way, in my opinion, since the last 2 weeks, had way more RPO play calls, had him more on the run, to where it's giving him a run pass option, right? And it's putting the defense on their heels, because now you have to prepare. Well, we already know they prepare for this guy, but now you have to be equipped for a guy not only who can pass the ball efficiently, not saying that he's the best passer, but who can pass the ball efficiently, but who also can hurt you with his legs, which we saw scoring 3 touchdowns, in that game. So I thought it was an amazing, game plan from Kellen Moore and the Philadelphia Eagles to really get Jalen Hurts involved in the passing game and in the rushing game. And it's just hard to, in my opinion, when you have a back like Saquon Barkley, it's hard for me understanding the risk it is throwing the ball versus running the ball. Like we have a running back in our backfield that's averaging, 120 yards a game, right? But we also understand the risk it is when the ball is in the air. We got tip passes, we got deflections. We got, defenders, that can play, pretty tight coverage, that can intercept the ball as well. So I think what the Philadelphia Eagles are doing is just taking advantage of their strength. The offensive line is all world. They can run pass, they can pass block and run block. You have a running back that's all world. Yes, we have receiver that's all world, but at the same time, I want to be able to take the best risk that's going to help us be successful, and that's what the Philadelphia Eagles are doing. And if it is called upon him, to throw the ball, I think they have to get him involved in the game early on in order for him to be successful.
Well, I think that and we got 8 career fumbles from Spence, you just pointed out. I think it's a situation where the guy played his best game on the biggest stage in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. They threw it almost 40 times. They scored 35 points. And if not for Mahomes driving them down to kick that game-winning field goal at the end, Hurts could have easily been the MVP. And I do think what's that?
They didn't have Saquon Barkley.
No, you're right. But I'm saying, like, if I'm him, I feel like put the ball in my hands. Let me be the guy. When we basically saw – you don't think he thinks that way? We saw Russell Wilson basically throw the ball to 1 yard.
I feel like he probably does think that way. But what I'm saying, I don't think that's a good idea, in my opinion.
No doubt. I mean, I agree. I mean, if you have 2 choices on a play, let Hurts throw it or hand the ball off to Saquon Barkley. I agree with you. If I'm a defense, I want Hurts to have the ball in his hands and not give the ball to anyone. But I think all season he's felt like he's a good enough quarterback that if he needs to throw it 35 to 40 times a game, he's going to win them. And I think sometimes he gets frustrated that they don't allow for the offense to look more like that.
Man, like I'm gonna put this in a golf. I'm gonna use a golf analogy, right? George Spieth, whatever year that was that he was going crazy and winning all these tournaments. George Spieth started chasing distance. George Spieth wanted to be 300, 305 down the fairway. George Spieth haven't won since he started chasing distance. So at the end of the day, if your formula is running the football, RPO, controlling the clock, why would you want to get away from that?
Well,
if that's the formula of winning.
I like that analogy a lot. But my rebuttal to it is, if Jordan Spieth played the best tournament of his life hitting it 305, he'd probably want to keep hitting it 305. And Hurts played the best game of his life throwing it almost 40 times against Mahomes.
But
that I think is the difference.
Think about this. You played your best tournament hitting the ball further, right? You haven't hit the ball, like you still chasing that distance, but you haven't won consistently chasing that distance versus hitting it 282, being okay in the fairway versus being in the rough, left. Like you're knocking off strokes, chasing something that's not you versus getting outside of the rim. Like, and that was just an analogy that just popped up in my head.
No, I like it. I mean, my thing is, you're basically saying, though, they're better off putting the straitjacket back on them.
Yes, 100%. Like, we'll call upon you when we need you. We know what you can do. We got an amazing defense. So why would we go even further with Tom Brady with the New England Patriots? I can't remember what the Rams. You got the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. I can't. I would Poni pull up his stats. How many times he threw the ball?
I mean, they won the game. They won the game 13-3.
Exactly.
And the most memorable thing from that game is they threw a ball to him, and he looked like he was 97 years old trying to catch it.
100%. It doesn't matter, how you're winning the game. We're gonna go off of our strength of our team. Like, we're not gonna get outside of our rim and try to do something fancy and try to flip the strip from what got us here. Why? When it's not called upon to do that.
All right, so here's another big topic that happened. By the way, Brady in that game, 21 of 35, 262 and an interception. That was not an MVP performance. They gave it to Edelman for that game. They couldn't give it to Brady for that game. They probably should have given it to a defender when you hold the other team to 3 points, though, by the way. How about throwing a bone to a defensive guy there? All right, so Cam Newton came out on Thursday and said he'd rather have his NFL regular season MVP than be a Super Bowl winner. Would you trade your all pros to have a Super Bowl ring?
Yeah, that's different. I will trade my all pros to have a Super Bowl win. With Cam, I wouldn't trade an MVP either. Just because that is a individual award, it just goes to show that you are above shoulders, above everyone else that's in the league, versus the greatest athletes, in our sport, so, and that's something that can never be taken away from you. That just goes back to the spring practices, the late night runs, just whatever he was doing, to get himself prepared for that season. It just goes back to that, because we all know, man, a Super Bowl is a team effort. Like, so many things have to fall your way in order for you to win a Super Bowl. But to win an MVP trophy, that's all on you. Like, and I don't give a damn what anybody tells you. That is, sacrifice, dedication, and just full commitment to whatever your goal was. So no one can ever take that away from you. It's I don't even know when they started, giving out the MVP trophies, but over 100 years of football, to be only, one of those 100 guys, that's remarkable. So, and it's the same thing with Super Bowls, but like I said, it's so much that have to fall your way in order to win a championship. So I'm with Cam. I wouldn't trade my MVP trophy in for that. But P2, I trade all of my all pros in for a Super Bowl championship.
How about a Defensive Player of the Year award?
Far as would I trade my defensive player?
If you won the Defensive Player of the Year award, hypothetically speaking, if you had won one, would you have traded it for an MVP?
As a cornerback?
No, Defensive Player of the Year for Super Bowl.
No, man, I don't think so. Just because it's only been, Spence may have to correct me on this. I think it's only been 3 defensive backs that have won the defensive MVP.
Charles Woodson.
I know Stephon Gilmore.
And Rod Woodson. So
that's an elite crew. You know what I mean?
So if I were on with Cam when this came up, I would have actually said, all right, because he brought up Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson and said, these guys are Super Bowl winners. I think what I did, I'll be remembered for what I did way more than those guys will be remembered for winning Super Bowls. I agree with him on that.
100%.
To me, here's the tough one. Would he trade his regular season MVP to be the Super Bowl MVP? So not only are you the winner, not only do you get a ring and acknowledgement for being part of a championship team, but now you're also being recognized as the best player from that championship game. And I would have been interested to hear his answer to that, because that gets back to that fraternity that you're talking about, where there's, hundreds of guys, thousands of guys actually that have won Super Bowls, but there's 40 plus guys that have won Super Bowl MVPs, and now you're in that category with Tom Brady and Mahomes, and you know what I'm saying? And I want Joe Montana. I wonder how he would have answered that.
Yeah, that would have been very interesting. I would have loved to hear Cam's response from that as well. But man, like for me, like I would have loved to win, obviously a Super Bowl. But if I would have won a defensive MVP, like you immortal now. Like I know that when you win a Super Bowl, but tell me how many Super Bowl champions that you can remember off last year's team, name wise.
Player by player.
Yeah, like just give me a number on how many. You don't have to name the.
It's easier because they're back. So the guys on the Chiefs roster that you know now are basically the guys.
All right, so I go with then the 2019 Chiefs then, if that's the year they want it. Can you give me 10 players off that roster?
Yeah, I probably can, but to your point, that's not really like it's that doesn't feel like it's an elite category of person.
Right.
You know?
Yep.
And look, like what you do over 17 or 16 games should be more impressive than what you do in one game, even though it's the biggest game.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think.
But Pat, but by that logic, then, like just to play devil's advocate, by that logic, then Peyton Manning should be considered better than Brady, because Manning had better regular seasons than Brady had. Brady only really one-upped him because he's, now Mahomes is going to give him a run for his money, but Brady's playoff resume is just so much better. He's won more Super Bowls than every team.
He did, but it goes back to with Brady being with a coach, understanding, like with the Indianapolis coach, like we all knew that they was going a team that's going to throw the ball. Like we all understood and knew that, right? With the New England Patriots, they was almost like the Kansas City Chiefs. They was a game by game team. Like if we needed to throw the ball 40 times, we're going to throw the ball 40 times. If we need to run the football, we're going to run the football. If we need to play outstanding defense, we're going to play outstanding defense. The Colts didn't have the ability to do that. They had good pass rushers, but they never had a solid defense that they can hang their hat on. So Peyton Manning had to go out there.
They won the Super Bowl. Bob Sanders was healthy and they won.
So they had to go out there and throw the ball all over the yard in order for them to try to put teams away.
By the way, Bob Sanders is a Defensive Player of the Year award winner too, as a DB.
He is. Oh, so I knew it was like 4 or 5 guys who won it as defensive back.
But so, Pat, when you say that, it sounds like you're giving a lot more credit to Belichick than a lot of players do.
Man. Listen, man, I've been in this game 13 years. I understand how important the coach is. And I know he said that you need players, right? But as a player, we don't watch as much film as the coaches. For coaches, they're already watching film when we're leaving the game that we just played. So they're picking up on things that we may not even see. So even looking at their listening to their notes, being the Tom Brady's, the going to the New England Patriots, the Ty Laws, being great listeners, taking in all the things that they're giving, the coaching staff is giving them, because I guarantee you the coaches versus a player, we'll say a player, we all know the quarterback should be the highest hour video watcher on the team. They will go down to maybe we'll say the offensive line, then maybe the linebackers, then the secondary. So we'll break that down. We'll say I'm just throwing numbers out there. We'll say the quarterback watch 60 hours a week, offensive line watch 40 hours a week, linebacker watch, 35, 30 hours a week, then DBs watching anywhere between 20. But now we're listening to the notes in the meetings that the coach, the nuggets that the coach is giving us, going back and watching his own tape. What most guys don't do is take what the information that the coach is giving them, back home with them and watching and actually validating this stuff. That's why a lot of guys are not successful in the league. That's why a lot of guys are not, don't sustain a career, because the coaches, that's all they freaking got to do is watch film to try to pick up nuggets to give to us to help us be successful. But guys don't take advantage of that to take the nuggets that the coaches are giving them and going back and doing their own due diligence and making sure that they're validating what the coach is giving them is correct. So what Bill Belichick did was he just built a great system. He had great guys who love football, who trust in him, right? And when those situations showed up, he's like, damn, coach wasn't lying. Like, this did pop up. That's the same thing with Mike Tomlin. Like, I know he's getting a bad rep right now. He can't finish off, seasons the way that that he should. But think about what quarterbacks that he had. Think about the injuries that he started sustaining in the back half of the season. Like, you need guys who really understand, love the game, that's going to study the game, and put forth their best effort in order for you to be a successful coach. And to me, I think that's something that's been hindering him, towards the back half of the of his seasons going back to 6 years ago. But that is something that made Bill Belichick so successful, man. He never flinched from the numbers. He understood what teams were successful at, took that away from them, understood that they wasn't going to be patient enough, and just waited till they crumbled. Like, he did nothing special. At all.
And now he's radioactive in the NFL, and he's got to go to college, and all these other dudes are getting jobs. Exactly. Hey, you said at the beginning of the show that, like, you missed the old Pro Bowl, that the Pro Bowl is basically turned into a complete joke and a farce. So it actually felt like it was a legitimate thing when you were first going to these games back in the day?
Yeah, it did, up until like year 5. Whatever Peyton Manning last year was, I remember this vividly. It was his last year was here in Hawaii, and I actually should have picked him off. He was throwing a pass to Reggie Wayne, and I'm still pissed at Reggie Wayne to this day for breaking up that pass. I'm like, man, we're in the Pro Bowl, man. Come on, man. Let me get that. But anywho, I remember vividly, because the year before, like, it started kind of getting out of hand. Like, we wasn't even tackling out there. Like, it was just bad, right? So I remember Peyton Manning, I think Drew Brees was on the team. It was like all the Hall of Fame quarterbacks. It wasn't like we was picking up pretty much what they're doing now, alternates and things like that. But I remember vividly when Peyton Manning got up there, man, he was like, man, the Pro Bowl is special. Like, it means something to be a part of this game. So I'll be damned if I will allow us to go out there and be a pillow fight, right?
Shit.
Yeah, and guys really took that to heave, like, man, and I that's probably the most intense Pro Bowl that I've ever played in. Like, no bullshit. Like it was very, very intense. From like maybe the first play, like the first quarter, guys kind of wanted to feel each other out. But I can guarantee you that, if it wasn't going the right way, Peyton, told the guys, like, hey, man, we got such and such on the line. And I'm sure the message was passed across to our sideline as well, to play put on a much better show, so that's what we did. And I believe that was his last Pro Bowl. I think that's when, because Jeff Saturday was on my team and they allowed him to go
and give him a snap. I remember that.
Exactly, give him his last snap. So, man, that's a very memorable Pro Bowl of mine, man. To have Jeff Saturday give Peyton Manning his last snap at the Pro Bowl.
That was 2014. I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Peyton Manning gave the team a speech about, let's not go out here and have a pillow fight. Yeah, that was a very memorable Pro Bowl, now that I think about it, Poni.
I've thought this for a long time. Like, I know that guys have Pro Bowl. They used to. Maybe they don't as much anymore because of what you're saying with alternates and shit. But guys used to have Pro Bowl bonuses worked into their contracts.
Yep.
I honestly think if the NFL could find a way to make it financially worth the while of the team that won the game, you'd honestly have the most competitive and best game of the entire year because you'd have the best players. If you could find an amount of money that motivated each guy on each Pro Bowl roster to actually play the game hard, and the fans knew that they were going to get basically best on best, and these guys were going to try, everybody would watch it.
I think that's
no doubt. I'm not saying it's easy. That's why it hasn't happened. But I'm just saying.
I think it's tough on the standpoint of it's too many guys for one. Like I like they will have to have, and I don't know who will be able to spend a check like this, but they would have to have at least 300 mil, because guys, to make it worth it, in my opinion, it'll have to be at least 150,000 per guy.
It had to be way more than that. I think it had to be way more than
at least. So do 150,000 times what? 106 guys.
Yeah, because I guess do they do 53-man rosters? I don't know. I mean,
yeah, they have. I believe they have backups. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, they have backups.
Well, you don't dress 53 on game day, so maybe you could get away with like 40 or 45 on each team. I don't know. But the point is, like, even if it cost the league, like, let's say they said the winning team each, the losing team gets the $150,000 each that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. The winning team, each guy gets $1 million or something like that.
See, you got to be careful though. You're still gonna have to be careful because you still gonna want the product to be the product. So, like, you can say that you're giving guys, you motivating them to play hard, but say for instance the product is still not the product.
Well, then they're going to be pissed. But my thing is, hold on. But here's my point, Pat. If the players, if you could get the owners and the players to say, look, if we incentivized it this way, the next TV deal is going to be bigger because networks are going to actually want this game. Right now, it's a fucking waste of time.
It is, right? And it's always going to be a waste of time, especially if it's done at the end of the season. Man, guys are burnt out. Like,
you know what? That's a good point, dude.
Like, I'm telling you, like,
what if you did it the following August?
I'm telling you, that's what I thought. They should make it to where it's almost like a spring challenge.
Like, what if it took the place of the Hall of Fame game, basically?
No, I think that's too close. I think it needs to be something. Yeah, I think that's too early. I think it needs to be something that's like literally right before OTAs, to where guys are still training.
Shit. So you're talking about like in the springtime.
April. Yes, I think that'll be phenomenal because now there's giving guys who had long playoff runs, who've been in the Super Bowl, to get their bodies back right? Yep. So therefore, you got 2.5 months, 3 months to get your body back in shape. So now you give the guys at least 2 weeks, because they're going to be getting back in shape anyway because they're getting ready for OTAs.
Dude.
So now you play the game before OTAs or mid OTAs. And if anybody getting banged up, now you still got 4 more weeks of OTAs in minicamp, and then you got a whole nother 6 weeks off.
Pat, I think that game, if you played it then, would do an absolutely monster rating if the guys actually committed to it, because you'd have a break from football at that point, and people would be ready to watch the game again.
Exactly. Sign me up, man.
Spence wants to know what the injury insurance policy is like for the Pro Bowl.
Honestly, I never got an insurance policy for the Pro Bowl, but I have an insurance policy just for football in general.
Yeah.
So I don't know if guys are doing that now, but yeah, I couldn't answer that question, Spence.
Is there anything from like the stupid games that they're playing right now that would interest you at the Pro Bowl? The dodgeball, the relay races, the tug of war.
Yeah, the dodgeball is dope. I think the tug of war is fun for the big guys because it's basically 7-on-7 now, so they can't participate in anything. I love the relay that they have, like running through the wall, climbing, like just showing different attributes of your athletic ability. I think that's dope. I'm trying to think what else I think they should add like and I don't know, I know they're doing something during the game, but they should add like something in there to like almost like a swimming contest or something like that. Just something different. Like, because they've been doing these games for like the last 5 years, right? And it's kind of getting mundane. Like the quarterbacks.
That's more like a track and field thing where it's like a triathlon, he said.
Yeah, like something like that, something different. Like we all seen the quarterbacks throw, at the different darts. There's only so much that you can do with that. I just think they need to switch it up a little bit more. Like, freaking swimming, long jump. Like, I mean, I know that guys can get injured that way and they want to make it as safe as possible.
If they lined up all the guys there and had them do a 100-meter dash, who do you think would win?
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill.
No, I'm gonna go with the young boy, the young guy out of I'm gonna go with Worthy. Just because Tyreek's getting a little older now.
He's not there because the Super Bowl, but I feel you on that. I mean, the guy set all the combine records for speed. That was nuts. And I can't believe the Bills let the friggin' Chiefs have him. You want to talk about something that makes you stay up at night. They traded that pick to Kansas City.
Yeah, but how was the Chiefs going to – I mean, how were the Bills going to use him? Like, I just feel like the Chiefs were the best option for Worthy. Like, I don't think the Bills is creative enough on the offensive side of the ball to get him the ball, because we've seen that he can't catch the ball when it's in a contested catch. We all know that he's bad.
Except the one of the game against the Bills, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He was piped up going into that game. But for the most part, we all know that he's fast, but like if it's going to be a bang bang catch, we can't rely on him. So I feel like he just fell in the perfect situation. Like, he should be happy that he went to the Kansas City Chiefs, being with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and his creativity that's going to be able to get him the ball in other different ways. Because I think it's going to be hard. It was going to be hard for a traditional offense to get him the football. Like, because if you plug him in any other offense in the league, how do you think he's going to be successful? In the Bills, I don't think he could be successful. With Green Bay, I don't think he could be successful. With Philadelphia Eagles, I don't think he could be successful.
Wow.
Detroit Lions, he possibly can be successful with the Detroit Lions. If going back with Ben Johnson. I'm just talking about the team that was in the playoffs.
I'm surprised you're selling LaFleur short like that, and you don't think he could have come up with something for Worthy. I'm a little bit surprised by that.
No, okay. I don't think he could have came up with anything for Worthy, man. I'm just being to me, Worthy is a one-trick pony. Well, two-trick ponies. The Rams?
Yes.
Yeah, the Rams could have probably did something with it. But the thing is, I feel like the Rams, if they was going to use him like a Puka Nacua, he's going to be taking a lot of hits.
Oh, he's not good.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, the Chiefs do a great job of getting him the ball in space and utilizing him in space versus giving him just jet sweeps, just giving him, tosses out of the backfield. Because that's what most generic offenses are going to do. But what the Chiefs do is,
Joe Brady would just throw him wide receiver screens.
Yeah, have him on a wide receiver screen, have him jet motion, come back this way, still get the ball quick to where you got blockers in front of him. Just creative ways to help him be explosive. And I don't think I just can't think of another team that can be able to put him in that type of position to be successful.
All right, we will return later on in the week, break down the coaching moves. Pat is off to New Orleans after Hawaii. He'll be there for the Super Bowl, Radio Row, doing a bunch of stuff. And then, of course, Sunday we will break down Super Bowl 59, a rematch of 2 years ago. This is First and Pod. Subscribe, rate, review. Tell your friends that you want that we've got what they want. Great football talk with Patrick Peterson, Spencer Ray producing. I'm Andrew Fillipponi. Thanks for listening.
Aloha.